Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? Today on this show, I have a great conversation with my old friend Ben Danaher. Now, Ben is a singer-songwriter out of Nashville, Tennessee. He's based in Nashville, Tennessee. He's originally from Texas. And I met Ben through his brother, Brett Danaher, who I worked with several years ago. Ben's a great guy. We got into the conversation of why he made that move from Texas to Nashville and how he maneuvered through that whole city to get where he is now. He's released an album and a bunch of singles, and he's a great songwriter. A songwriter of sad songs in his own words. We talk about that for a minute. He's also toured with a major label artist that he'll talk about a little bit in there. But what was really cool, other than talking to my friend Ben, is we did the interview in the home of William Clark Green. Yeah. I'd like to get that guy on the show. If anyone knows him, can make that intro, you know? But anyways, it was a lot of fun catching up with Ben, and his stories are pretty cool, and I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Let's check it out. All right, man. Tell me who you are.
My name is Ben Danaher, and I'm a singer-songwriter from Huffman, Texas, living in Nashville, touring and making records and putting out all the sad music.
Joining that crowd?
Yeah, joining the long list of other sad sacks.
When did you start playing? What made you start playing guitar?
Yeah, so... my family was really heavy into music. My dad was a songwriter, and then my brothers both played. Brett, who played guitar with Pat Green for 20 years or so, and then my oldest brother was a drummer, and so our house was just like full of music instruments, and they were always trying to get me to be the bass player in the band, but it didn't look too cool, so. I held out until probably like my junior year in high school before I started like learning how to play guitar. And then when I went to college, I got cut from the baseball team and then started playing gigs, in San Marcos.
Who were your influences?
Well, they've changed, but at the time it was watching Brett, that was seeing like that Texas country scene of things was really kind of inspiring. Watching, guys like Pat play for 3,000 people or whatever. But as I started digging in farther to songwriters, it became, like the older troubadour kind of guys like Rodney Crowell, Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark, and then dove into some Ray Charles and soul music for a bit, and Merle Haggard and those classics.
So you've always been a country guy?
Kind of, yeah.
You, like you said, your brother played for Pat Green. You could have, when did you move to Nashville? Why did you move to Nashville? Like you could have kind of stuck around and done the whole Texas country thing. But.
Yeah. So I was, I was getting a lot of good looks down here as far as like opening slots or whatever. And it just wasn't translating. It was like, I think I remember I opened for Randy Rogers in Uvalde, Texas. And there was like 2,000 people there, and I sold 2 records. And I was like, the odds are not good right now, Yeah. And maybe it was the type of song I was writing or what. But I saw myself kind of circling the drain in a sense. And there's a guy from the town I grew up in named Alan Shamblin, who's like a Hall of Fame writer in Nashville. And he was kind of, breaking it down like where all your heroes, like Townes Van Zandt or Guy Clark, is like they all spent some time in Nashville. I think you should at least give it a chance and come up here and at least give it a year, and see. And he was right, because the resources there are incredible. There's so many songs being written that it ups your game, and that aspect of things. But yeah, I've been there 10 years now.
Yeah. When you got there, was it overwhelming, or did you?
Oh yeah.
Did you kind of immerse yourself in the scene immediately, or
kind of both? When I moved there, I started working at a bar called Third and Lindsley, and when I walked in, like for like my second or third shift, Chris Stapleton was playing. And this place is a 500 cap room, but he probably had 100 people there at the time. And I remember thinking, like, if this guy can't do it, we're screwed. Because, like, he's like one of the best singers I've ever heard, and the songs are great. And, like, but, you know, as you walk around Nashville, there's, like, so many people that are, like, kind of on that level. And no one's bad. It's like there's nobody bad in Nashville. Well, I mean, there are, but, like, you don't see them. It's like there's just everybody's consistently pretty good, you know? And that is a shock value when you get there because you're like, oh, man, like, it's just been kind of a lazy walk until this moment. And now you're like, I got to have songs. I got to have a lot of songs.
Yeah, step it up.
Yeah. So it's a good and bad pressure.
Yeah. Did you feel your style of songwriting, because there's a little bit of everything in Nashville. Did you feel like, okay, I'm not going to stick out like a sore thumb amongst all these great country songwriters? I
don't know. You know, I don't know if I had as much of a voice then, like, or felt confident enough at the time. I knew a lot of people from Texas that knew some of the companies that were the publishing companies and stuff. And so I was luckily getting intros to publishers and getting in the door a little bit. But I think my goal at the time was to get a publishing deal, and that turned out to not be, in the end, I think what I wanted. But
so you did get a publishing deal?
I never got one. No. I think, you know, like my perception of what a publishing deal was different than what it actually was. You know, I thought that you could just go to town, write really great songs, and then somebody would have a market for them. But there was a bigger game to play. And not to knock the system or anything, because there's people doing it and making money. But yeah, I don't think at the time I really knew what I wanted to do. I spent a lot of time knocking on those doors, and then it finally led me to make your own record and kind of build your own brand of song, and then maybe somebody will like that and record it. You know?
And how long did it take you to do that?
Well, shoot, that I made a record in 2013, which was a couple years after I'd moved there. But, you know, as it goes, it's like you're bartending and you're saving money to get to the next record. And finally got to where the record is self-sustaining to the next record kind of thing. But that changes, you know, throw a pandemic in the mix, and then you're back at the drawing board again.
So what was your momentum like going into that?
To the pandemic?
Yeah. You released an album in 2018?
2018, yeah. I released that record, and it kind of like died. And well, I say died. That's a grim term that we use in the record business of like, your record is dead.
Yeah.
Like, it means that it's time for another record. And that was done. And then I had gotten put on 3 shows with Aaron Lewis, which was kind of a fluke. Like, a buddy of mine who manages him offered 3, and that ended up being like 270 shows at the end of like our time together. And leading into the pandemic, so all of 2019, we did 100 and something shows, and then 2020 hit, and it was like, I was ready to take a break and reconfigure like how I was going to myself get into some of the markets that we were in and see if I could headline small rooms and if some of those people would come. But then my booking agent dropped me. And so I was like kind of scratching my head and freaking out. And in a way, it relieved some pressure because it was like, okay, no one can tour now.
Yeah.
But then.
So did he drop you right before all that happened?
Right after.
Oh, okay.
Which was not my favorite move.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had let my cousin go, who was booking me to sign to this guy. And he basically took a commission on the 100 and something shows that year and then let me go, which was.
That you did with Aaron.
With Aaron, that he didn't book. Yeah. Oh. And then, so a couple months, it was like, this is great. I can figure this back out again. And then a couple more months went by and it was like, okay, now I think everybody's forgetting about me. You know, like, it's like, I think everybody had that fear. So who knows? It's in a way starting back over, but it's not all lost. It's just, it was a weird year.
Yeah. So, and you started doing shows again in 2021.
Yeah, well, I did a few with Aaron in 2020, mainly because he never really stopped touring.
No.
He leans pretty far to the opposite side of caution on most stuff, and so there were a lot of opportunities as far as like drive-in theaters or stuff like that. And then 2021, I did a few things with him again, and then now this week I'm out on a kind of a solo acoustic run through Texas.
Not to make this about Aaron, but what was it like touring with him? I mean, did he give you some advice, or did he
give me more advice than I wanted to get from Aaron? But he was really great. His whole camp was so accommodating and helpful in so many ways. That's a long time to be touring with one artist, and I don't know any other scenarios where you would get to jump in somebody's bus and not have to pay for gas or a hotel most of the nights and sell your own merch and get to do that. And so I was really grateful for that. Sometimes I worried that the audiences weren't the right fit.
Yeah.
And in some cases they were, I think it depended on the room of if the theater gigs were really great, but me opening for his band in like a standing room only crowd was a little tougher.
You alone up there? Me
alone. Yeah. We tried doing the band thing, and it was like, at some point, if you're either going to listen or you're not going to listen, it's like, is it worth me shelling out $500 to $600 for the band for y'all to not listen to us? So I don't know, but as far as Aaron goes, he was great to me.
Yeah. I saw that he gave you a pink Carlton case.
He gave me a pink Carlton case. I don't know if I could say it on here why, but he as a gift because he had a different opener on his original tour, and there was like a news article that came out that he had done something, and that opener and their publicist decided to pull their presence from the tour.
Yeah.
And so after the 3 gigs that I did with him, his manager asked if I wanted 30 more shows to end the acoustic run. And I said, yeah, of course. And as a thank you, they gave me that case, and they picked pink so that I would have to walk through the airport or whatever with a pink guitar case.
Right on, man. Well, that was, I thought that was really cool. Like, regardless of what you think of Aaron's beliefs, like that was really cool of him to take somebody he didn't know and give him that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Years ago, my band had the opportunity to open for his other band.
Oh, yeah.
And he invited us on his bus. He was the nicest guy.
Yeah.
Of course, that was long before all this has been happening the last few years. But he he's a nice guy. And
he is a nice guy.
He opened up his bus to us.
Yeah.
It's nice. But so back to your 2018 album. Did you write all of that?
Yeah.
There's a line in Silver Screen. I'm a real big stickler for opening lines, and Silver Screen, the opening line is so good.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to paraphrase the line, the lights in this dive bar make everyone look good.
Yeah.
Where did that come from, man? That is.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I was writing that with a guy named Justin Halpin, and our kind of take was that all these hipsters in Nashville were like kind of taking over the old dive bars, and it looked like they were. It almost looked like a mini LA, like everybody was like auditioning for a movie every night they went out, and some of those old dive bars in East Nashville, like they're so dim that when you get in there, it's like you can't tell until the house lights come on what you're walking out with, But yeah, I think that was kind of the vibe of that was, anyone can look good in this setting, because it's the contrast of a really crappy bar.
Well, that's a great line. It's a great song. So there was another song you, I think I wrote to you a couple of years ago. You posted a video on your social media. I think it was called "Lie to Me."
Oh, Taught Me to Lie.
Tell me, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
you got it, but
the same co-writer, Justin.
Yeah, it's a great song. Did you ever record that?
Yeah. I recorded it. So you probably saw like a YouTube video or something of us doing it. Maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that came out on a batch of singles after the record in 2018. But yeah, that was one that I had written in like a week of a lot of songs. You know, like I must have had a bunch of co-writes stacked up or something, and it kind of went in the can. And when we went to record the Still Feel Lucky record, I didn't even consider it because I didn't think about it. It was just like in a batch of songs that I didn't dig up. And then these guys were doing the YouTube video series, and they were like, "Do you have anything that you haven't recorded yet?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, let me look." And I sent them 3, and they're like, let's do that one, you know? And so we did it. And then that video came out before my record came out, and everybody was like, "I'm excited for your record." And I'm like, "Oh wait." And
I was one of those people.
But yeah,
never mind. I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah. I'm not going to buy the record, but I'm glad we finally got to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, your vocal style, like you're a country guy. Do you consider yourself a country guy?
Yeah, country influence, yeah.
Yeah, but you have this a bit of soul in your voice.
Oh, thanks.
And I don't like you earlier. You said you were kind of influenced by Ray Charles. It's almost that style that comes out. So I don't consider you like a country guy.
Sure.
But you write country songs.
Yeah. I think that like I always gravitated toward a country hook of like, and that feel of like either it's a slow waltz or like some kind of like, I don't know. I think those chord progressions just naturally feel good to me. Yeah. But yeah, I have a huge fan of soul music and Motown and Ray Charles and all the good feeling stuff.
Yeah.
I just wish it translated more into the groove of what I'm doing.
Yeah. Are there any artists right now that you look into like that inspire you, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of really great songwriters out there that I wish I could like tour with or something. But there's a few to mention. John Moreland out of Oklahoma is an amazing songwriter. John Fulbright from Oklahoma. Then I've been in like a Foy Vance kick lately, who's this guy from Ireland who's amazing. And he's got a lot of soul to his stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Trying to find my own path and voice.
I think you're doing it, man.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I know I said that earlier, but joining all the sad songwriters, but you definitely have an original voice. In the 10 years that you've been in Nashville, I know you went to college. I don't know what you got your degree in. Was that a backup plan? Did you ever think you were going to have to resort to the backup plan?
I don't think I'll ever resort to the backup plan because it's teaching, which is like, I think everybody thinks you could just go teach, but like, I have mad respect for teachers because it's there's so much of a commitment to
shit money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really shit money. And like when I was finishing up my degree, I remember that at Texas State the program had like you could finish in May or whatever with your degree, or you could go one more semester and get certified. And I remember talking to my mentor, and I'm like, I'm never going to use this. I was like, should I get certified? And she's like, just do it. Just get certified. And I went ahead and did it. But like, and people were like, you can teach and play music. And I'm like, no, you can't. Like if you're taking music seriously, there's no way that you can do both because there's so much time allotted to teaching. But yeah, I don't know, you know, if I'll never say never, but like, I don't think anytime soon I'll be teaching.
I guess this is just my opinion. You can have a backup plan.
Sure.
I always think in order to be successful, you shouldn't have a backup plan. And I think what you did, like you could have stayed in Texas. You could have used the connections of your brother and Pat to make a name for yourself here.
Right.
But you took off to Nashville, which is completely throwing your backup plan.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think, if you've never done this for a living, been an artist, I don't think when you go to an industry city like that, like you don't have time to fall back on something. You got to do it 100%.
Oh yeah, yeah.
110%, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. When I moved there, they were, I felt behind the ball because like there were people I was riding with who were 25 years old, and I asked them how long they'd lived there, and then 10 years. Like, your parents moved here when you were 15. It's like they've been at it. And like, not to say that Nashville is the only answer, because there's a lot of amazing songwriters here in Texas. But you're right. Like, having a backup plan, I think, allows you to kind of like, I don't know, maybe give yourself too much grace and like failure.
Yeah, I think having a backup plan is the excuse, like, to not give 100%.
Yeah, like I think the pressure is good. Like when you're like, I have to make this work. Like, even looking down the barrel of like next year's touring schedule, it's like, well, crap. There's probably not going to be a ton of gigs with Aaron. I've already kind of like exceeded that invitation.
Yeah,
and so what's next? How are we going to scratch and get gigs or opening looks or my own shows or whatever? And like it's scary because you're like taking a pay cut. But yeah.
Have you ever has it ever gotten in your mind to be like, all right, I'm done?
Yeah. I think it's in everybody's mind, but like I don't think it's a realistic I'm done. There's always moments where you're like, well, shoot, man, I'm 37. And if it hasn't exploded by now, like, is it ever going to work, And then it's like playing golf, you hit 20 balls into the woods and then you chip one up onto the green. You're like, this is the funnest game I've ever played, so I don't know. I don't want it to. I don't know what I would do if it didn't. But there's definitely frustrating times where you're like, I don't even want to write songs. I don't even want to tour because I don't know if anybody really cares,
Yeah.
But I think seasons change and things get better.
Coming into 2021, these dates with Aaron, did you see more of a excitement in the crowd because they were watching live music? Like you said, Aaron never stopped touring pretty much.
Yeah.
But to do those kind of intimate shows where, there wasn't all these regulations and, did you see, were the crowds like just excited to hear people perform?
Yeah, for the most part, like I stand at the merchandise table before and after the shows and I catch a lot of feedback on that. And for the most part, people were very excited to be at a real show and not watching a live stream because it was a year of that. And they were very generous because of it, which was great. They were, wanting to support. And so it was really cool to.
That was odd, those live streams, huh?
Oh my God, talk about awkward. And there would always be a lag on the comments so you'd be halfway through a song and you'd get like emojis or requests or just reading people's random comments in the middle of your song. And you're like,
I tried to watch all my friends' live streams and I was like, oh, it's too much.
It's too much, yeah.
It's too much. I'm never going to leave this. And they're all playing on the same night.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like normal,
right.
A normal schedule. Like, you guys are playing here and you guys are playing here. Which one do I go to?
Yeah. I remember just like ending every one of them and like turning the camera off and being like, you just turn around, there's an empty room and you're like, this is so weird. It's so weird. Just, I guess the show is done.
Before all of that, I know I'm jumping back and forth, but
right.
Before all that, you came to Texas and you played some shows at the Sax and you played with Brett.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
Well,
I'm sure you guys have played together before, but what was it like?
But I feel bad for Brett because I put him on the spot that day. We hadn't planned on playing together, and he was at the pool all day drinking. And so I texted him and I said, hey, do you want to play at Saxon tonight with me? He goes, well, I've been at the pool. And I'm like, I don't care. And he goes, all right, it'll be loose. And so he showed up and he killed it. He's a really great guitar player. But I love playing with Brett. I wish we could do it more. And hopefully we will. Like he just got his recording rig set back up at his house. And so one thing I've been doing is demoing songs at my house, and then these days you can just email tracks back and forth, and it's nice to have him as somebody who can just help you flesh an idea out or whatever.
So is he still playing? He still
gigs, yeah. He missed my Saxon gig because he had a rehearsal with a band called Hot Tub Country, which is like a cover band with Robert Henry, and they do like 60s and 70s, 80s country music.
Right on.
Wear mustaches and stuff. But
so that's the whole gimmick. The whole they go the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, he's picked up gigs with Jason Boland and a couple different people over the last year, and he's selling houses. But I think he he'll always love it. And, want to be playing music.
I always enjoyed being around your brother.
Yeah,
so
he's a great guy.
I've worked for them for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Which brings me to a night at Floor's Country Store.
Yeah.
You came out and just recorded your first CD. And I this moment, I'll say this and I'll say it to everybody that's going to listen. You were so happy. You came, you had CDs and you gave me one. And I said, do you have 3 more? And you're like, huh? And I was like, I need a whole set of coasters.
So good.
And then everybody laughed and walked away. And to this day, I was like, I never said I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's so good. I remember that night. I was so nervous, like playing that gig, and it was a throw together band. And I asked Brett afterwards. I was like, "How did it go?" And he goes, "Your drummer was good." Tough love.
Since you've been doing this, since you've been playing, and have you got to do some of the things you've always wanted to do live, like play venues you've wanted to play? What is one of the highlights that you?
Well, yeah, a lot of these theaters we did on this acoustic tour were like, holy crap, I can't believe we're getting to do this. Like the Ryman was amazing, but like every city has kind of a Ryman, and we were finding all of those on the first acoustic tour. And I remember like I could tell a difference like when you go in to the theater, if there's a bar inside or outside of the room that you're playing music in, I could tell you within $500 of what I was going to sell in merch, because it was just like it was either going to be vacuum sealed quiet or it was going to be a party going on. But when it was good, it was
give me the shirt, the koozie, and the CD.
yeah, totally. But when it was good, it was like, like a dream, like the biggest dream gigs, like 2,000 people being completely quiet. Like I never would ever dream that I would get to do that,
So when you did shows with Aaron, you don't have to disclose this. When you did shows with him, did you have to match his merch? Like if he was selling a shirt for 30, you had to sell yours for 30?
No, I didn't have to, but I did.
Yeah.
And I told
so did we.
Yeah. I was like, why would I sell it for less? And no one ever batted an eye. They were like, oh, okay, cool.
That was the most money we ever made in merch when we opened up for Stain.
Oh yeah, totally. But it's really not that big of a difference in the grand scheme of it. But yeah, he never had any kind of regulation on.
And did you get to keep all of it or have to pay?
Depends on the venue. It was always funny when a venue would come after me for like a merch split. Yeah. And what was really funny is when they were paying me less than my merch split was to them. So it's like, you paid me $250 for this gig and I'm paying you $400 on a merch split. Something seems backwards here. But
and for those people listening that don't understand what he's saying, is these cats have to pay a percentage of the merch they sell?
To the house, to the venue.
Yeah.
Usually the deal is like a 80-20 split on what they call soft merch of like koozies or shirts. And then they take less on CDs because there's licensing fees or whatever. But I was like the king of dipping before the manager came, and my whole goal on the tour was like, I was working with Aaron's merch guy, who was a buddy of mine, and he would give me the heads. I'd be like, hey, that person over there, they're going to come over and count my merch in a minute. And I would just leave. And until they like sought me out, like, can you get Ben off the bus to come out here and count his shirts? It's like my favorite thing to do is just to dodge that.
Right on. Before I ask my next question, which is usually one of my final questions, I don't know if you listen to my podcast. You used to tell a story on your social media about a Waffle House you would go to every night, and you'd order the same thing every night. Can you tell me that story?
Oh yeah. So I quit drinking, and instead of going to bars after I get off my shift or whatever, I started going to this Waffle House down the street from my house, and it got so bad to where when I would walk in, the cook would literally just start making my order, like, and you have to order it from the lady, and this old lady named Vaughn would just come in and start, writing up my order, and I ordered the same thing every time for about a year, like about maybe once or twice a week. And the total was never the same. And like, it was just like off by like between $13 and $7. It was somewhere in there. And I just gave her like a $20 bill every time. And, I started taking pictures of the bill and posting it on Instagram, and it was kind of funny to people, but it was just amazing that like math was that difficult.
Is Vaughn still around?
No, she passed. It was kind of sad. She got sick, and I remember going in, and they were like, "You should go to Vaughn's, go see her at her house or whatever." I was like, "I don't think we're that close, but yeah, that was bad."
Right on. Well, the podcast is called "Is Breakfast Included?" And I know when I was talking to you earlier, like, "Hey, let's go get some breakfast tacos and do this there," which I was down because I've yet to do this over breakfast.
Oh,
but if
really?
breakfast was included,
Oh, man.
what would you have, man?
Oh, well, I'm coming off of like a 2-day, I got food poisoning 2 days ago.
No.
And so this is like day 2 of like finally eating food. So I'm timid on like, I don't know if I can handle like chorizo or anything, but like, but when you're in
That's what she said.
Yeah. Well, when you're in Texas, you got to do like breakfast tacos.
Right?
Yeah. There's some things that we don't have.
All right, on, man.
Good. But yeah.
Well, is there anything you want to push that you got coming up?
No, I got a new record, but I can't give you a date yet. So it's kind of,
Where can they find you on social media?
Just on all of my socials, pretty much just have my name attached to it. So Ben Danaher or Ben Danaher Music.
All right.
And then my website, bendanaher.com.
Thanks a lot, man.
Dude, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good to see you. Right on. Ben Danaher. He's one of the nicest guys you can meet. If you guys see him like coming around your town, go check him out. He's on social media, like he said, at Ben Danaher or at Ben Danaher Music. He's got music on all the streaming platforms. Check out that song we talked about. I kind of got the name wrong, but it's called Taught Me to Lie. And I listen to a lot of music. I don't throw this around very often. It's probably one of the best goddamn songs I've ever heard. Yeah. Anyway, I haven't quit listening to it since I talked to him. Support local independent music. All right, guys, I am done. We'll talk to you next week.